Okay, this is Spencer again in Lutz, Florida with my son hanging wallpaper on a soffit. And today I just want to show you how to wrap the wallpaper around this soffit, and it's much like wrapping a gift box. If you can wrap a gift box, you can put wallpaper around a soffit. The first tip is number one, you want to join the new sheet of paper with the old. It has to be, we're working from the left to the right because our sheet of paper, our last sheet, is on the left. That'll keep you true to this. If you start working here, you'll overlap it or you won't bring it close enough to this last sheet of paper. Okay, so the other thing is you want to wrap the paper around the soffit. Just bring the camera around here and just show how we've wrapped it around here. Now look at how almost nearly perfect my soffit is. The pattern is just on the edge, and it just seats where it's imperceptibly off. You would never notice that, but it's almost perfect there. So we're going to leave that there because the soffit is not a true right angle. All right, it might be 90 here and 91 up there, or 92 or whatever. So you want to, that's why paper stretches a little, or that's one of the good things about paper stretching. So anyway, I wrap it around. Underneath this paper is a lot of glue, and it's going to hold the paper to the soffit. I actually use a better glue than just your regular glue. This is border adhesive, which keeps it very tacky and prevents it from lifting up. Okay, so how am I going to wrap this thing? Now, if I go like this, look what happens. I get this wrinkle here, right? Now, believe it or not, some wallpaper hangers, because I've taken down a lot of wallpaper and I've seen how they hang theirs. I used to cut mine from here to here down, all the way down. But then that always leaves a gap right after this cut. So I'm going to do it like the way I was taught. I'm now going to bring my paper. I'm going to stay true to the left side. I'm going to first put my paper against the last sheet, okay? So now you want to come on my left with this camera. And we want to show them constantly applying more glue. Can never have enough glue when you're doing one of these projects here. So I'm joining the paper very tight with this stuff. All right, I just want to make sure there's no gap in this seam. You can always come back to the seam when you have less than 1/16 of an inch. You don't want any more. When you leave a seam and you're still working the sheet of paper, you don't want any more than 1/16 of an inch gap between one seam and the other, because it's very hard to stretch the paper 1/8 of an inch. You wind up tearing it. It's very hard, especially when she starts setting. So I'm good there. It's just a hairline, and although I don't like it, I can always stretch it a little bit, you know? So here I go. I'm now fixing I've continued my vertical sheet down, right? And I'm bringing it onto the bottom of the soffit. You see? Now, if you're wondering why I'm short here, it's because we're going to do something different with this piece, you know, with this strip here. The customer wants a lot of different painted colors and stuff. But anyway, if I were continuing with the paper down here, what I would do is I might consider cutting it here, because this soffit is so off that in order to maintain a straight appearance of the paper, you have to cut it sometimes in order to redirect the paper so that the pattern doesn't go with the angle that's way off, because your paper will start looking way off. And you have to decide whether you want your pattern to be crooked or you want the pattern not to match perfectly in the corners. It's less visible if you don't have the pattern matching in the corner, and if you could hide it like that. So usually things aren't too badly off where you have to it looks horrible. There is a way to fix it. If you have a crooked soffit, you could simply overlap the paper in the middle of the soffit and let them put a clock over it if the soffit is really off. You might have a pattern that's literally like on the other part of the soffit. It's so uneven. It's on one of the ends. It's a 12-foot soffit, and on one of the ends, it's way off. And the way to do that is if you make it straight, just make the paper straight. Go with the unevenness, and overlap the paper in the middle of the soffit, and just do a double cut right down the middle of the soffit, and then you put a clock over it, and then your pattern is straight. That's one way to hide imperfections in the construction. Okay, so I've wrapped this around. I'm letting my paper set in place. I'm still working my seam, and it's almost perfect. If you push too hard, you'll tear the paper. You'll know how much you can work that paper after the first or second sheet. If you're a professional, you know exactly what I'm talking about. If you're not, you will quickly find out when you start hanging your paper. If you're just a beginner, order more paper than you need for your coverage. You know, give yourself room to make mistakes with your paper. Give yourself some room. It pays to order more, especially since you get the paper from the same batch. Okay, so you talk to your wallpaper distributor about how to order wallpaper. Okay, on these cuts, don't be shy and make sure that you use nice, do you have the other blades for me? Nice, sharp, new blades. In this case, I want to use a new blade for every single cut, because you tend to work these pieces so long that they get soggy. If the blade should be slightly dull, it'll tear the piece. It'll just tear it. Alright, so I put my straight edge up against there. Reason I'm doing this, I'm taking stress off of the paper so that when she wraps around, the paper just does what you want it to do rather than it going with what it wants to do. So this part is secure. I got no bubbles that I can see. I'm ready to go onto the other side of this box. By the way, if you take these things off, good luck. If you cut around them, you may not get the paper properly cut around them. It's difficult. I'm not one who uses scissors a lot, but this is something because you don't want to scratch the thing. I took it off. The plastic that's attached to this thing snapped because of the heat and the age of the thing. So it's always a risk, and now we need a new cover to this thing. But anyway, I like to take it off so that the paper is nice and underneath. It's tight. I don't like being short on my wallpaper. I take fixture covers off, and you should too. Alright, so now let's come around the side. How are we going to do this? Because if you're thinking about it, somehow we're going to be wrapping it like a box, and we're going to wind up doing a double cut. So here we are on this side of the paper. How are we going to handle this? First of all, we're going to take the stress off the paper by, I cut this, I'm going to cut it here. Okay, that gives me less stress on the paper. So now, what do we do with this flap here? I don't need this paper here, this part. I don't need it, we're not doing this. Although that would look like a Christmas box, wouldn't it?
Yeah, I was in your measuring.
But that's not what we're doing with this. We're going to, although we could do that and bring this piece of, continue this pattern right over it. At some point, the pattern will not match, but it's key that you hide it.
Don't worry about it, Jay. Is there a tape measure over there, dudes?
I could lend you mine.
Oh, no, he's got one.
So now we have to decide what's the least conspicuous way to hide this problem. And I'm deciding right now that we're going to cut it right like this, all right? This actually looks good. This actually looks good. So here we are. Then you see how it looks like a Christmas box? Now you might be like, wait, that doesn't look right. It will. Let's take the stress off at the top. Okay? See, this is a very inconspicuous area. Where would a person in the kitchen least likely look, right?
Yeah, right up there.
Right here. When they're in the kitchen, they're going to look here. When they're leaving, they're going to look here. This is inconspicuous for the most part. Okay, so that's where I'm deciding to put my my soffit fold. Whenever you do a soffit, you're going to overlap the pattern. Right, so I'm putting vinyl on vinyl, so I want to put border adhesive on it. I want to make sure I got plenty of glue there so that this doesn't come up. Regular wallpaper glue will not stick wallpaper onto wallpaper for more than a few days. It will stick, and then as soon as the temperature goes up or humidity changes, it's not staying. So we want to wallpaper to wallpaper, and so now can you just give me the roll of paper and we'll show them how we're going to finish this off. I should cut that. Just keep it sideways. Okay, now, it's slippery. Okay, so it's a little tricky, but you can do it. It's not that hard. Have patience, patience. Continuing with my pattern. This pattern, by the way, has flowers that are upside down and right side up while you hold it vertical. So if you're noticing any haze, that's the way the paper is. All right, so I'm just gonna cut a piece off. And I'm gonna fit it right onto there. Cut enough for it. Just hold it. Not pull it, just hold it. Okay. So now, again, this wallpaper calls for gluing the wall first, so I'll take that. And do you have the roller? I'll just put some extra glue on it. Okay. Is glue on it?
Yeah.
By the way, you just pull this out. It's a great tool and you just tighten this against here. See? Okay, hold that. All right. Now, you want to have this whole thing wet down with this special glue. You don't want this coming off. So you got to make sure that you got enough glue on this thing, especially in the corners. And this is the way all the old timers hung the paper. Now we're going to do a double cut so it won't have this bunched up paper here. But now, I match up my pattern. Where is our zigzag line? Here we are with this. We're matching it up. And since the soffit is vertical, we want to continue it vertical. No sense in changing it up. And we're matching it where the paper would continue. Or are we? Where is our... This at the end. Okay. Okay. So now...
Write these down, I got measurements.
Okay.
Oh wait, we'll go around, Scott.
So now, fitting this in.
Let me measure it from the inside.
I don't need a vertical level because I'm going with the pattern. I can see a shadow through the paper that I'm using through the squiggly line, and it's equally distant on both sides.
Reminds me of a children's nursery rhyme type. 35.5 wide, This one's going to be a little different now. They're going to run these are going to be curtains, right?
Yeah.
61 3/4 high.
I'm going to take tension off of my paper so that she hangs freely.
Okay.
You guys YouTubing it to show everybody how to do it?
Yep. Yes.
That's how they do it. I always wondered.
Okay, so now we want to bring out paper. Always want more paper than what's necessary when you're wrapping it around. If you cut the paper too short, when you cut, throw the paper out. Just get a new sheet because it's tacky. You don't want to be doctoring up your paper. You want it longer. That's a common mistake when you start wallpapering. You cut it too short. Take the paper and throw it out. Just take a break. Usually frustration causes people to just start compromising quality. Just work it. You can do it. It's nothing here you can't do yourself. I started this when my first wallpaper was when I was about 15 in Brooklyn, New York. My mother and I, with my aunt, women back then used to hang wallpaper very, very often. And anyway, it was my first job of hanging wallpaper. Okay, so now I'm ready. I'm confident that this is my set piece. This is where we're going to set. Now, I want to use a fresh blade because I've been working this paper and it's starting to get soggy. So I'll stop talking, you just watch. There's no need for me to really talk here. Sometimes people just want to hear themselves talk. There's a lot of YouTube videos with people who just do this very often. You could learn from, I watch many YouTube videos to learn how to do the same thing, because this one or that one will teach you something new and different, which is good. So I gotta talk here. Okay, so now you know we got that bulkiness under here, right? You'll see it depending on the light. You can't see it now because it's dark, but if you have enough light shining on it, you're going to see it. So we want to do a double cut. I want my cut right at the bottom. It's the easiest place to hide it. So I'm going to try to keep this nice and straight. Remember, push hard. You're going through 2 layers of paper. And in one case, I'm going through 3. I'm going through 3 and where it overlaps. I'm going to come out fast here. Make it nice and straight. So now, bring the paper back out. Taking the stress off the paper. This is now discarded. We don't need this. Okay, this is my cut here. Always remember which is garbage and which is staying. So we go underneath it. We're going to take this big overlap out of here. Don't rip your paper, lift it up. So now, taking it carefully out. You see now she's all glued down. It's all going to meet up now. Okay. So now the final will meet. You just work it in, bring it down so that she meets. Okay. Okay, so now also let's see, I want to cut this here. I'll do a double cut here, cut it a little straight. See, my corner is nice and tight. It's glued. It's not coming off because I got a lot of glue under that. And my seam matches up. And I'm going to now join this piece over here to this. So anyway, my whole corner, if you rub your finger against it, you don't hear any noise. That means it's all tight to it. If you heard noise, that means there's air in there. You got to press it down. You got to work it. But if you work it too much, it's going to come apart. You'll discolor the paper. Anyway, if you like this video, please click on like and please subscribe so that I can make more videos for your and my benefit too. If you have suggestions on how you wrap the soffit, please let me know in the comment section. Thank you.